Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from, and thanks for attending today's webinar, Create Your First Intelligent Bot with Azure AI. Before we get started today, there are just a few housekeeping items that I'd like to go over with you. If you look over on the left-hand side of your webinar console, you'll see a Q&A box. We have a few technical experts here who would be happy to answer any questions you have throughout the duration of the presentation. We will also spend the last 10 to 15 minutes of this presentation answering your questions just through the chat functionality. If you now look over on the right-hand side of your webinar console, you'll see a list of resources. We've provided a couple of URLs we think you might find helpful throughout this presentation, so feel free to click on those whenever you'd like. Below that, you will also see a survey box. So once we're finished with today's presentation, we would really appreciate if you let us know how we did today and let us know a few topic areas you might be interested in learning more about, as this will really help us determine the sort of webinars we will be putting out in the future. Also, we often get the question, will the slides be available from today's presentation? And the answer is, unfortunately, we are not able to send out the slides, but you will be getting an on-demand link sent to you by email within 48 hours. So keep an eye out for that in your inbox. We have two speakers joining us today, Wee Hyung Tak and Wilson Lee, and we will be starting out the presentation. So Wee, whenever you are ready, feel free to take over.
Thank you. Now, first of all, we deeply appreciate your time on this webinar. And today we're really going to walk you through how you should go about creating a bot infused with AI. And anytime when you're looking at creating an intelligent bot infused with AI, there's really two things you should think about. One would be data, having the right set of data that's going to power the brain of your bot. But more importantly, you can leverage this data and build models, or you can point many of the pre-trained models exposed via cognitive services and leverage it within your bot. And of course, the next piece that you need is really about AI, right? And today on Azure AI, you really have three pieces. One, which is the AI applications and agents, and this is what we're going to cover most of this today, as well as other capabilities that allows you to do knowledge sharing, as well as machine learning, a very powerful machine learning platform for you to create your models, but more importantly, for you to operationalize your models. Now, and when you think about data, you really have data that's on premises in the cloud. And today, from an Azure perspective, we have powerful capabilities that allows you to do data modernization, both on premises or in the cloud, or to the cloud. At the same time, we have lots of capabilities that allows you to build globally distributed applications at cloud scale. And more importantly, if you bring all of this together, now that you have huge amount of data, on Azure AI, you have tremendous amount of capability for you to do cloud scale analytics. Now let's talk about AI. Today, when we talk about AI, you really want to look at three major areas. One, which is vision, speech, language. And using the Azure Cognitive Services, there's tremendous amount of capabilities that allows you to do things from customized language text-to-speech understanding, to content moderation, to speech translation, to OCR, to even being able to do speech transcription, and so on and so forth. And today you're going to see some of this in action during this webinar. And one of the reasons why we're able to make all this available to you today is really about all this Microsoft AI breakthroughs that's happened throughout the years. Now, if you go from the left to the right, you'll see tremendous amount of progress and innovation being made around object recognition, right? And today, of course, you have heard about deep neural networks. And deep neural networks such as ResNet, which has 152 layers, is powering a lot of this vision algorithms. And next, if you look at speech, we have made tremendous progress in all areas of speech, both from being able to do recognition to being able to do translation. And many of this you have read about in many of the Azure blogs that they have actually hit or surpassed human parity. And of course, the last piece is really language, which is really an exciting area. And just earlier this year, you have heard a lot about us being able to do machine reading comprehension, right? And how this is being slowly being incorporated into the product. And that's why if you look at vision, speech, and language, because of all this Microsoft AI breakthrough, this is now readily brought to you as cognitive services. But more importantly, when you think about building an intelligent bot, your intelligent bot can leverage all this rich set of AI services, if you will, and create really breakthrough innovations. The other areas that you might want to look at is, well, you say, who are using these cognitive services, and what is the momentum around it? And again, from left to right, if you look from vision to speech to language, there's tremendous amount of developers that's already using Azure Cognitive Services to being able to use Azure Bot Service to create some of this intelligent bot. At the same time, if you use PowerPoint like many of us do, today in PowerPoint itself, AI is built in. You could download the PowerPoint translator that now allow you to do translation of your slides or being able to do this in a live manner. And so you might say, why use Azure AI and why use Azure? What you see here is really the global footprint of Azure. And today, many of these Azure services are available globally across the planet. But more importantly, we're continuously looking at expanding our regional coverage so that every customer in every region can utilize our Azure services whenever they are. And we're building our products in such a way that Azure becomes the best place for doing AI and for leveraging AI and for infusing AI into all these innovative applications that you're building. And Azure is really the best place for AI. And we have really 4 guiding principles which ground our strategy as well as how we're differentiating. First of all, we want to drive productivity. And machine learning is really a really complicated task. And we really want to provide and support the best tool in the industry to make both data scientists and developers extremely productive on Azure. And next, AI, if we take a realistic look at it, it's not going to be locked in the cloud or a single place. You will need to be able to go on premises, on the intelligent edge. And the engineering team has worked extremely hard to make all this really simple so that data scientists can build the model once and deploy anywhere, whether it's to the intelligent cloud or the intelligent edge. And the third principle is really about the fact that we're fully committed to being open. And AI has evolved very rapidly because of the industry commitment to openness and the willingness to support and adopt multiple open source frameworks. And we work extremely hard in order to empower development teams to use the languages and choice and tools of their choice. And lastly, one of the things that we've been laser focused about is really leading the industry in being compliant, secure, and enterprise ready. We have lots of understanding from working with customers in all these different areas, and we're continuing to focus on doing that. And most importantly, we'll provide the best level of security, privacy, and compliance standards so that every company can apply AI with confidence. And essentially what you see in this slide is really the principle that have been guiding us all along. And so we're going to dig into some of this in a while. Now, when you think about Azure AI, there's really 3 main things you should think about. One, which is AI applications and agents, which is really the focus of today's webinar. At the same time, there's powerful capabilities for you to do knowledge mining using Azure Cognitive Search. And lastly, if you're thinking about doing machine learning and trying to build a machine learning platform for your company or for data scientists in your organization to use, you really want to be able to think about how you could use Azure Databricks for both interactive analytics, but more importantly, for using Azure Databricks for data preparation, for processing the data, and at times even to run your models. And Azure Machine Learning really provides you with tremendous amount of capabilities for you to manage the life cycle of your model and enabling you to be able to operationalize the model, whether it is as a REST API in the cloud or taking the model and pushing it to the intelligent edge. And if you use in combination with Azure IoT, you now have the ability to be able to update the model as and when the model evolves. And lastly, to do AI and to be able to train AI models, you really need a powerful and a flexible and open Azure AI infrastructure. And in this case, the infrastructure provides you with the capability to spin up lots of GPUs if you need them in order to train your deep learning models. It also provides you with capabilities for you to manage the scaling up and down of your training infrastructure and even more. And therefore, I really encourage everyone to check out machine learning capabilities on Azure, but more importantly, everything that's possible in Azure using the Azure AI infrastructure. And so today we're going to dig in and we're going to go deep into how then, if you leverage a lot of these out-of-box capabilities exposed through Azure Cognitive Service, how we can build this intelligent bot in an area that is top of all of our mind, which is how can you go about doing this and making this, building a really innovative bot capability for a conference scenario. And so this gives you a really simplified view of what does it mean to build an AI application and agent. Of course, today, we could have our line of business applications in the company. We could be building new applications, or we could be enhancing existing applications. And therefore, if you look at this in perspective, and if you want to infuse this application, whether it's a new application that you're building or whether it's an existing application, you can actually readily infuse it today with AI capabilities, whether it's vision, whether it's speech, and whether it's language. Today, these are all available to you as Azure Cognitive Services. And if you take each one of these or combine them in innovative way, you can truly build your first intelligent application. Now, just to give you an example of various customer use cases that we work on, from UPS to HP to Thomson Reuters, AI is being used every single day, right? Whether it is trying to help customers get information on the shipments that they have, to being able to handle a lot of the support use cases, to being able to do automatic video recommendation. AI is being infused into all this very powerful application that is already running today. And so it is super important for us to be able to use AI in order to get many of the work that we're doing, as well as many of the applications that we're building ahead of others. And therefore, another customer example is really Vodafone. Vodafone Italy is one of the largest telco in the world. And today they serve about 500 million customers across 25 countries. And today, they're using Azure to power a bot called Toby, which is really a digital assistant created using Azure Bot Service, Cognitive Service, such as Louis, and the Speech API. And what is interesting about Toby is today Toby is already fueling about 1.5 million customers call, and with an awesome resolution rate. And why is Toby so powerful? It's because Toby today can seamlessly pull in live agent as needed to either escalate an existing resolution when needed. And therefore, what is most important is while Vodafone Italy built Toby, all of us on this webinar can now build this bot infused with all this intelligence. And Wilson is going to show you in a while. Now, to put things in perspective, you really have cognitive services. And cognitive services really enable you to infuse your app with powerful pre-trained AI capabilities through years of research and all the Microsoft AI breakthrough that we showed you earlier today. But more importantly, cognitive services enable you to customize them as needed. And you can use any language of your choice to interact and to work with cognitive services. And of course, if you add that together, the bot services and the capabilities that the bot services provide, every one of us can do AI. But more importantly, every one of us can use AI to infuse it into all the applications that we build, all the applications that we love, in order to create powerful, intelligent applications. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to hand this over to Wilson. And Wilson is is going to show you how can you build and combine cognitive services and bot service into a really powerful application which we call Conference Buddy. Over to you, Wilson.
Thank you, Wei-Hong. All right, let me start by telling you a story. As a dev, I was at a conference attending a session with hundreds of other enthusiastic developers. As I was listening to the speaker on stage, I started to gather a list of questions that I would like to get the answers right away. But the timing never seems right to ask those questions. Maybe it's not Q&A time yet, or maybe I'm not thrilled to speak up in front of so many fellow attendees that I might not sound as smart as I want to represent myself. Now this makes me think, how can AI help? That's why we created the Conference Buddy, an end-to-end intelligent application to showcase how can we use AI to facilitate more effective Q&A experience at conferences with large audiences. In today's demo, I will start with an overview of the Conference Buddy architecture, and then I will show you 3 steps to build this end-to-end intelligent application. Now let me first show you the architecture. Conference Buddy is designed with what we call an AI-oriented architecture to incorporate the different components used for intelligence, user interface, and data insight. The architecture follows a microservices pattern where the components are loosely coupled. Each component is designed to handle a single responsibility and is fully autonomous. Now, the benefit of this design pattern is that each component can build, deploy, and scale independently. Within Conference Buddy, it consists of 3 different components, as you can see on the screen on the slide. The intelligence, which is represented by the bot brain. It is an abstraction that encapsulates the business logic of the app with a collection of bot tasks. Each bot task is independent and is responsible for applying intelligence to attendees' questions to generate relevant answers automatically and store questions into a data store. The user interface is the second component. It is represented by the conference bot, a chatbot that allows attendees to ask questions and receive relevant answers across a variety of channels. Data insight is our third component. It is represented by the speaker's dashboard, an intelligent application that allows the speaker and moderators to view, search, and filter attendees' questions while on stage, and questions can be projected either on the big screen or on any mobile device. Now, let me show you how do we build this. I'm going to now share my screen. Give me one moment. So the first step is the bot brain. Now, the bot brain is the intelligent abstractions that power the entire end-to-end application. And for the Conference Buddy, we built this with Azure Functions, and you can see the project right here. Now, the design of the bot brain has 2 concepts. First, the bot task. Now, each of these bot tasks is a function, and they're independent from each other. We've built 3 tasks as examples with Conference Buddy, and you can see them right here, these 3 over here. Now, we have the Ask Who task, which leverages Azure Cognitive Services Q&A Maker to provide predefined answers to attendees' questions if they want to learn more about the speakers. Second, we have the Learn More task, which is right here, which leverages Azure Cognitive Services, Video Indexer, and Bing Search to automatically answer the attendee's question with the world's knowledge. Third, we have the Answer Question task, which this task leverages the Azure Cognitive Service text analytics to extract information from attendees' questions and store the results into Azure Search. Now, the second concept of the bot brain is the data contract, and you can find them right here. Now, for Conference Buddy to truly be benefiting from the microservice architecture, the components cannot be tightly coupled. The data contract provides such abstractions where the caller to the bot brain only needs to provide with a standard request and receive a standard response back. So the standard request, for example, this, and the standard response are these with the a list of objects called Ask Question Results, which you can also find it here. Now, the benefit of doing that is that the caller does not need to know anything of the inner workings of the bot brain or anything to do with intelligence. So let me show you how this bot brain works. let's dive into Ask Who task. If you look into Ask Who task, it's a very straightforward Azure function. It deals with the HTTP post, it checks the content type, and also it figures out that if it actually has the proper required objects inside the request body. And then it sends to this particular method called answer question method, and then it basically just start applying intelligence into the request. So we first do key phrase extraction, and then it uses that to actually send it to Q&A maker to see if there's actually a matching response. If there is, it will then set the response results into that particular response from the Q&A maker. And if it does not, it goes to Bing search to actually try to find the answer and also put it into the response results. And afterwards, we log that into our storage, and then we return back the response as a 200 OK back to the user. So this is the bot brain. Now that I have shown you the bot brain, let me show you the next step, how to build the conference bot. Now, the conference bot is the user interface that is built using Azure Bot Services, and you can find the project right here, Conference Body Bot. This provides the ability to add naturally fluid conversation as part of the Q&A experience. This also allows the attendees to communicate with the conference bot with multiple channels and on any device that is available. Now, the main responsibility of the conference bot is to handle messaging. It receives the attendees' questions, and then it tries to determine its intent using Louise for the language understanding part, and then it invokes the proper bot brain task with the request data contract, and then it replies to the attendee by formatting the response from the bot brain, and then it just generates a UI element and then send it through the channels back to the user who asked the question. So let me show you how the conference bot works in action. So now we have the conference bot. I'm going to show you a root dialog. This is a very basic bot development where you can see that it has the root dialog, and then inside the root dialog it has the message receive async method. Inside this method, you can see that it actually goes through and receives the message from the user in this case, try to figure out which channel it is, and trying to actually massage the message a bit. For different channels, there might be some different behaviors. Then it actually tries to go to Louise to try to determine its intent. And based on its intent, it tried to call the method called process greeting intent or process query intent, in this case, if it's not a greetings. And then you can see that to process all these different intents, they're actually calling the same method, but just with a different flag. Because to the bot itself, there's no difference which one it is, but it's just called a different URL to the bot brain to actually get the information it needs. And then let's put a breakpoint into the process query intent method and see how it works. So we have that. Once you press F5, you'll see that the bot is fired up. And then you can actually run the bot framework emulator, connect to the to the local host with the proper port, and then you can click on connect. And then now you're connected to the bot. Now let me ask you a question. Let's see. Maybe we can try the ask who task that we have shown a little earlier with the bot brain. So let me ask, who is Anand Rahman? Anand is the co-author of the book that we're presenting right now about the conference body bot, and you see that it actually hit the breakpoint over here. Now, what happened in here is that in this method, the bot tried to grab the message that was sent from the user. It tried to actually create a request object. With this request object, it's trying to send to the bot brain with the URL and with the different tasks, and then trying to get the response, the standard data contract response back. With that, it actually checks, okay, if there's any result, and if there's result, it just process it as it is. So let's run it through, see what it does. So it said that, okay, so I found a message, and then I say, okay, I'm just going to take the first result. Okay, so it said that, oh, there is a result, and say, oh, great, we got it, and I'm going to send you from the source. And then this time, the source is from LinkedIn. And then what happens is that it sends back the user right away saying that, hey, we found something. And then it starts go to work and try to build the adaptive card. With that determined channel, it's saying, okay, it's either a direct line or an emulator, and then it goes in and actually get the adaptive card object, and then back it will send back to the user. And you see that from your emulator, you see that, hey, we got an adaptive card back with all the intelligence. And you can see that from the code from the conference bot itself, there's no actual inner workings or understanding of, oh, is this from Q&A Maker, is it from Bing, or is it from Video Indexer, and so on and so forth. And then that's where we can show the abstraction of this conference bot brain. Now, the last thing that I want to show you guys is the last step of building this end-to-end application, which is speaker dashboard. And you can see that we have it here, and this is the dashboard. With this dashboard, you can actually filter by many things. But with me seeing it, I think it's more powerful if I can show you the end-to-end working prototype and see how this works. Now, as you remember I said earlier, is that because of the fact that we're using the Azure bot services, we can actually, the user can actually talk to the bot with different type of interface on different things. So we actually built a web chat that actually can talk to the bot. And you can ask any question you want. Now, maybe this time we'll ask some actual questions that you would ask during a conference. So maybe we'll say, hey, what is the power of AI, for example? And the bot will process it and send it to bot brain and comes back say, hey, thank you for your question. Let's ask another one. Okay, so what is the future of cognitive services? Okay, send it over there, and then there. And as you might remember earlier, there wasn't any questions on the dashboard, and now it does. So this dashboard can actually refresh itself. But the power of this dashboard is the fact that it actually go through the backend, which is the Azure Search services, and actually we already have all the topics and the keywords actually processed. You can actually filter by them. So if someone wants to say, hey, I want to only answer the questions through cognitive service, I can filter by that. Or I can say that, okay, so I want to actually do that and actually say, okay, so I want to just answer the questions with Power AI, we can filter that as well. So you actually really see the dashboard in action. Now, throughout this demo, what we've shown you several things. We've shown you an overview of the Conference Buddy AI-oriented architecture with microservice pattern, how we've abstracted the intelligence of the application into the bot brain concept, how we've built a conference bot that's mainly responsible for messaging, and how we can provide insights of the attendee's question to the speaker to review, search, and filter. It could be on stage or on any mobile device. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen and show you that. And one thing I want to mention that you can find all these code and everything that we've mentioned on our GitHub, aka.ms Conference Buddy, where you'll find links to our blog or AI show and additional material that can help you build your own intelligent application. Okay, back to Weeham.
Earlier on, you saw these 4 principles which guide us on trying to ensure that Azure is the best place for doing AI. Today, we have the most comprehensive set of productive tools and services, and we're going to continue making them better. We have the most differentiated intelligent cloud and edge offering, and we'll continue investing in it. We will ensure that Azure is the best place for you to do AI, but more importantly, Azure is the most open cloud to do AI. We will always remain the trusted cloud for you to do AI as well. And many of the things that you have seen throughout this webinar, whether it is all these different capabilities that is on Azure to enable you to do AI, or how can you combine cognitive services and bot services in order to build your first intelligent bot, the source code as well as all the thoughts that goes behind it is now available to you as a free ebook. You can download the free ebook from the link that you see on the screen. And we really look forward to everyone on this call being able to use cognitive services and bot services to create your first intelligent application and bot but more importantly, being able to show it to your colleagues and friends. And that's all for today's webinar. I'll hand it over to the host to continue with the Q&A. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Wilson and Weihong, for that great presentation. So it looks like we are now just reaching the end of our time limit here, so we're going to bring this session to a close in just a few minutes. But before we do that, it looks like we've had some really great questions come in. So we will spend the next 10 to 15 minutes answering the remaining questions that we haven't got to just through the chat box. So now is also your time. If you haven't asked a question, please pop that into the Q&A window, and we will do our best to get to as many questions as possible. Also, as mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, if you look over on the right-hand side of your webinar console, you will see a survey box. And we would really appreciate if you let us know how we did today and let us know what areas you are interested in learning more about, since this will really help us determine the sort of webinars that we'll be putting out in the future. Also, you will be getting sent a on-demand recording of this webinar in your email within 48 hours, so keep an eye out for that. So again, the chat window is open, and we will stick around for the next few minutes, and we would like to thank everyone for joining us today. Have a great day.